I've got to get that intro video sorted out. The song skips, doesn't it? Anyway, the transfer window, this summer's transfer window, has been strangely quiet at West Ham United. And as we've discussed on the channel a few times, that in itself may actually tell us something positively rather than negatively. The days of constant leaks coming from inside the club seem to have dried up. They seem to have disappeared for good. The usual transfer whispers, I've heard we're signing or are about to sign so-and-so player. All those stories seem to have completely died out. They seem to have slowed down dramatically, which means that when a story does emerge, we've got to look at it carefully and we ask ourselves, is this genuine? Is there any substance behind some of the rumours? Or is this simply another transfer rumour circulating because it suits somebody's agenda? But this latest leak, or this latest story, I should say, I have to admit it's an interesting one, because unlike some of the other names being bandied around, this one has got mileage. This isn't a player who supporters have never heard of before. This isn't a player who supporters have got to be convinced about. It's a player who spent last season or half of last season at West Ham, a player who quickly became popular amongst the fan base, and a player who actually looked really comfortable wearing the West Ham shirt, and a player that many supporters would love to see the return of. And that player, of course, is Axel Disasi. Now, this isn't a news story, but it's taken a bit of a twist. And before I go into it, if you're new to this channel, or if you've watched the West Ham Voice before, but yet to become a subscriber, a QR code has appeared in that top corner. All you have to do is click on it, takes you to the subscription page. Costs nothing to become a subscriber. If you enjoy the content, why not subscribe? So, there's one thing about leaks being stopped from within West Ham United. However, what we're not in control of are leaks that come from other clubs. And according to reports from a Chelsea insider and reporter called Simon Phillips, West Ham are apparently close to agreeing in bringing the French defender back to the London Stadium. But this time, not on loan, but at what looks to be a permanent deal. And now, with a fee believed to be somewhere in the region of £25 million, this kind of asks several questions. Can we afford it? Under the old leadership of West Ham, we were constantly being told, we've got to sell before we buy. We're broke. There's no money in the kitty. Whereas under Kretinsky, that seems to be a completely different narrative altogether. Now, does Nuno want the player back? I think that's a rather stupid question. Chelsea, would they actually sell? Looks like they might. Can West Ham actually afford this type of investment in the Championship? Well, it looks like maybe we are being able to afford it. And perhaps the biggest question out of all of them is, would Axel Disasi himself want to come back and play in the Championship with West Ham? Because, look, from a footballing perspective, it's a no-brainer. It makes a lot of sense. We're about to enter a Championship season where the importance of experience can't be underestimated. Yes, there's a huge argument for bringing in young talent, and under Niels Koppen, his new recruitment model will, I'm sure, identify a number of young players that we're likely to go for. But every successful promotion campaign also needs experience. It needs leaders. Players have kind of been there, who know what the pressure's all about. Players who know how to deal with difficult moments. And Axel Disasi proved to us last season that he ticks every box that we're asking of him. Look, a lot of Premier League experience. He's played in Champions League football. He's played international football with France. It's not a player who's learning the game. This is a player who can walk into a dressing room and immediately command respect. And he did exactly that when he came to West Ham last January. And for a team trying to bounce straight back into the Premier League, all of that matters. Because let's be honest, when Disasi arrived, there were plenty of questions about him. What were Chelsea fans calling him? Axel Disaster? Apparently, well, a player who struggled for consistent minutes, a player whose confidence had probably, well, should have taken a hit. But what happened? He came to West Ham United, and from day one, he settled in straight away. And because of that, the West Ham fans connected with him. Now, supporters don't connect with players just because they're good footballers. They connect with someone that's putting in effort, someone who's showing commitment, someone who's got the right attitude, and players who actually look as if they want to be at the club. He delivered all of that. He certainly gave the impression, I think he gave more the impression, he enjoyed his football at West Ham. You know, he spoke positively of his time at the club. He embraced the supporters, and there was a feeling that he wasn't simply just passing through. Sometimes footballers arrive on loan, and you can immediately tell, is this a temporary deal? You know, with Disasi, it kind of felt, a bit different. It didn't look like Disasi was just coming in to make up the numbers. It felt really different with him. On a footballing side, popularity is one thing, but quality is another thing. Disasi is a big, powerful centre back. Physically, he's got everything you'd need, everything you'd expect: height, strength, aerial ability, presence. And in the Championship, that's going to be hugely valuable. Let's not forget, the Championship isn't simply Premier League football just with different teams. It's a very, very different challenge. Going to be more aerial battles, more physical duels, more second balls to win, more moments where defenders are going to have to stand up and be counted. Disasi is built for that. He's comfortable carrying the ball out from defence as well, not just the traditional, hello Sushi, she's made an entrance again, not just a traditional shot stopper. He can step forward. He can bring the ball into midfield. He can help West Ham create attacks. Don't show your ass to all the viewers. And that's important because modern centre-backs are expected to contribute much more than simply defending in their own box. But that is going to be crucial in the Championship this coming season. But here's the big question. Does he want to come back? Let's put ourselves in Axel Disasi's position. 27 years of age. He's played for some big clubs, Monaco, Chelsea, as I've said, Champions League football. He's played international football for France. And now he has an opportunity. Does he really want to spend the season in the Championship? That's the challenge, because footballers at the level that he's at, they're ambitious, and rightly so. They want to be playing in the highest possible level. And they want European football, international recognition. They want Premier League football. So West Ham, hopefully, have sold him a vision, not just about what contract he might get, but to convince him, come back, help us get promoted, be one of the leaders of this team, and be part of the next chapter at this football club. And actually, that might appeal to him, because there is another side to this. Chelsea don't appear to want to let him go. Chelsea don't appear to want to keep him. He doesn't seem to be part of their future plans. At some point, a player has to ask, well, where am I going with my career? Where am I really valued? Where do supporters appreciate me? And Disasi experienced all of those answers at West Ham. Look, he can certainly sign for another club, either on a permanent or on a loan deal. But he experienced that, though, didn't he? He spent time the season before last at Aston Villa. He went on loan there, but he never really looked happy there. He never really looked comfortable there. However, with West Ham, he knows what he's walking into, and he knows what the fans are going to be like. They're going to be right behind him. Now, why would this mean a big statement from Kretinsky? Why would it appear to be a big statement? Because if Kretinsky is genuinely supporting this move, it sends a message, a very clear message. Remember what we've been discussing since the ownership changed. The possibility that West Ham are moving into a different era, hopefully a more stable era, an era where we're strategically planning things like player recruitment and the way forward for this club. So Kretinsky, back in this, seems to signify that we're not being forced into selling our best players. And what we want are the players that did right by us last season. So bringing Disasi back in to the fold seems to be so fitting. It's not just about keeping the players who are under contract. It's about bringing a player back that was really part of the relegation fight last season and did all he could to actually keep us in the Premier League. The easiest thing when a club is relegated is to panic. And under Sullivan, that's exactly what would have happened. We would have sold, we would have cut costs, we would have sold players for, we wouldn't have got 85 million for Fernandes. There's no way we'd be half considering Disasi coming back into the team, because it'll all be about cost cutting. But Kretinsky's message has been that relegation doesn't mean West Ham have to dismantle the squad. Now, obviously, there still will be changes. There have to be. But keeping key players, bringing back someone who already understands the club, well, that demonstrates ambition. Look, does it fit in with the Copper model of the kind of players that I think he wants to sign? No. Disasi isn't the youngest of players. He's got a high upside in recruitment. It's going to cost money. He's not a hidden gem. He's not going to he may not have a great sell-on value, but he isn't someone you're going to end up buying cheaply. Football isn't about having one recruitment strategy. It's not only about getting young players in. As I've said, you need leaders. You need talented players with experience that are going to come in and do a job for West Ham. And if Nuno believes Disasi is fundamental to his defensive structure, then that's what counts, because the manager is going to need players he can trust. For me, this is much more believable. It's a much more believable transfer story than some of the other rumours that are currently out there. Not because it's guaranteed, but because it's logical. It makes sense. The player knows the club knows the player, the supporters like him, the manager likes him, Chelsea want him moved on, and West Ham need defensive stability. The biggest obstacle isn't the football, it's about ambition. Does Axel Disasi believe West Ham can get promoted immediately? Does he believe that this might be just a one-season project? Does he believe returning to the London Stadium puts him back on the Premier League stage quickly? Because if the answer to all those questions is yes, then this could actually be one of the most important signings West Ham are going to make this summer. It represents something bigger. I've said it. Stability, experience, leadership, and perhaps most importantly, a statement that relegation has not changed West Ham's ambitions. And what do we have to lose? What does he have to lose? If we don't get promoted, he'll certainly get another move elsewhere after this season. And that applies to the likes of Bowen, Castellanos, Dinos, and all the other key players that we want to keep. Give us a season, see how it goes. If we get promoted, fantastic. We are a Premier League team. We go back to strengthening even more. If we don't get promoted, we all know you're going to leave. You're not going to give us another season. And Disasi fits into that. So what about you? What do you think? Would you bring him back? Is £25 million good business? Or is that too much money for a defender in the Championship? Let me know your thoughts. Because unlike some other transfer rumours, I like this one. I like where this might be going. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. And also hit the hype button as well to promote this video to other viewers on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll be back again pretty soon.